Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be making Shanghai egg rolls. And the first thing I start off with is I shred 1 carrot. And whenever you're adding vegetables to your egg rolls, honestly, the best thing to do is to grate everything. I noticed instead of chopping it, it just makes it a lot easier. So I'm just grating this. Trying not to cut my fingers off. But normally for lumpia, you just can put whatever vegetables you want in it. I've seen a lot of weird stuff in it before. Just don't put raisins in it. Okay, so we've got our shredded carrots, and I use the bigger side of the grater. And then I'm going to take my onion. I'm going to cut the top off first, cut it in half, and I'm going to grate half an onion. So I'm going to take the outer peel off. And then I'm going to go ahead and grate it on the thicker side. And if you're worried about crying, I honestly didn't have any issues, but you know, you take your onion and put it in cold water for like a minute or two and then grate it or throw it in the freezer. So I just grate it like 3/4 of the way. So it's like about a 1/4 cup of grated onion. And it just gives like the flavor of the onion. I want everything to be blended in this mixture. And you can add celery to this or even cabbage. But I think the cabbage kind of makes it stinky. So I don't put any cabbage in there. And then I put it in a bowl. I go ahead, and this is the only thing I really don't grate, is I chop up 2 cloves of garlic. Relatively fine. So I'm going to mince that up first. I found a little baby garlic in there. So I'm going to thinly slice it and then mince it up. And I'm going to chop the baby garlic too. So like 2 large cloves of garlic basically. Put it in my bowl. And then I have 5 green onions, and I'm going to use the whole thing. I'm going to use all the green onions. And you don't have to use green onions. You could do celery if you want or something else, but I like the green. I love the onion flavor in this. So I just used a lot of onion. So I'm going to chop this up, and then I'm going to add it into my mixture. And then here it is. I'm going to add a tablespoon of dark soy sauce. I'm just kind of eyeballing everything. So I'm not adding salt to this, but you definitely can add salt. I don't. And then I have some sugar, some Truvia, and I add about a tablespoon of that as well. And I'm almost out of sesame oil, so about 1/4 teaspoon just for flavor. You really don't need a lot because it ends up being too strong. And then 2 eggs. And that's going to be really helpful in keeping the inside of our lumpia really moist. And then 1 pound of ground organic pork. And you can use, instead of pork, if you wanted to do a different type of meat, a really good option is doing chicken thigh, like ground chicken thigh. That would be good too. So I'm going to use a fork, and then I'll switch over to my hands and come back to the fork. So I really want this well combined, so it's easy to mix. You really want the egg to be really incorporated. If it's not incorporated in the meat, you can tell. Kind of break it up a little bit and shoot, that meat was super cold when I touched it. If I had a food processor that would, like, I wouldn't mind cleaning, then I would go ahead and use that, but I'm not about to pull that out. So I just switched from my hands to the fork, and it's a lot easier to deal with. All right, once it's fully blended, I have a piping bag. I know this sounds crazy, and I fill it about 3/4 of the way up with my filling. I have 1 egg that I'm just going to beat together. I don't use any additional water. I just like using straight egg. And then these are lumpia wrappers. It's the Dynasty brand. You can find them in most Asian stores. Will have them in the freezer section. And they're kind of like they're different than regular egg roll wrappers because they're thinner. They're almost crepe-like. Lumpia wrappers are actually, there's a fresh version, and that's different than this version, which we use to fry. I didn't know this until I was doing more research, but this, I get the quarter one, the half sheet ones, because these are easier to roll. And you get more egg rolls out of it, I guess you could say, because I had enough to make for like a snack and then some to freeze. So I just pipe enough. I cut the bottom, and I just pipe it. Less is more. If you put too much in, you'll definitely be able to tell. I leave 1 inch out on both sides to make sure it's spaced, and then I egg the top and the sides. But this to me is like the fastest, easiest way to make the lumpia. And I just tighten and roll. I mean, so fast to make these. So I get the sides, I tuck, and I roll. Honestly, this was probably the fastest lumpia making I've ever done. Usually it takes forever, but I remember during Christmas one time we did it. My parents did it, and it took them forever, but I think it's because of all the talking, because Filipinos like to talk. So, all right. So I've rolled most of them. I have avocado oil in my cast iron pan. I don't fill it all the way up. I only do about 1/4 of a cup of oil, and then I turn it. I really don't submerge fry them. And I got them in a little tight. I was just trying to get it all done, but it turned out fine. They don't take that long because I don't overfill them. So since I don't overfill them, they cook a little bit faster. If you overfill them, I notice they tend to pop open. But if you just put enough, so it's just one line, then they don't pop open. And my favorite utensil to use to turn them are chopsticks. I noticed that's the easiest way to turn them, because you can kind of get in there if they're tight like mine. But that's my favorite utensil to use to turn, not tongs. Tongs too hard because they're so small that sometimes they rip open if you're not careful. I realized the heat was unevenly set, so some of them got darker. But it's a pretty simple recipe. I love them. We have this a lot honestly, we have it for everything, like merienda and like for like holidays and for like, so basically we eat a lot of lumpia. But growing up, my grandmother never actually made it from scratch. It was always from the store. But all I do is I take them, I have a bowl with like a little paper towel, and how I set them in, I think I'll show you in a second, is I'll set them in the bowl. Yep. So I'll take it, and I have them going up so then the oil goes downward, and that way they stay crispy and hot. And growing up, that's what we always did. But honestly, that is it for our video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day. Enjoy your lumpia.